Hey guys, Anthony 4x4 Diesel. We got a 2013 150 Prado or a Toyota Land Cruiser LC 150, depends where you are, in for an inspection. It's just about almost 8 years old. It's only done 87,000 Ks. The owner tells me the injectors have never been out and he's done most of the maintenance himself throughout. Is that right? So yeah, we got that right. I'm just trying to remember lots of information. There's a couple of things we've found though that lead us to believe the injectors, well, not necessarily the injectors have been out, but the pipes have been bent. We're still yet to check over the whole vehicle and do a bit of a diagnostic. Not that we're going to see much as per what I've explained in our other diagnostic videos, but I'm just going to go around and show you the bit of evidence that we've found that shows that someone's worked on the vehicle other than what he's done himself. And I believe not the injectors have necessarily been out, that the fuel pipes have been off, which does risk contamination, which is a bit of a disappointing part, because I was just in the process of saying that even though it's a 2013 and they're 8 years old, at 87,000 Ks, I'm not too worried about them. And it doesn't mean that I am at this point, because it is clean. It's not really an off-road. It hasn't been full of dust, dirt and sand in the engine bay, so there's a better chance that there's not contamination to the injectors. But I'm just going to show you those things that I've found that lead me to believe that the pipes have been off. And just to be clear, every 40,000 kilometers, as part of that service, if the vehicle goes to a Toyota dealer, they should be servicing the vehicle as per the book, and the correct procedure is to check the valve clearances. That's not listen, that's get in there and physically measure with a feeler gauge, which includes removing the valve cover here to get access, which means those fuel pipes, they've got to come off to do that. The proper procedure is to remove the injectors and replace the injector seats. They don't do that obviously because there's not enough time in this service to get any of this done, so it's a quick slap bang job. And generally the way it happens is the fuel pipes over here get bent back like this, the risk of contamination to the injectors, valve cover comes off, and quick valve clearance check in there, never usually out. So stop doing it, stop letting people do the 40,000 K service on your vehicle and risk contamination to your fuel system. It's way too much of a risk and not worth it. Now let's go in and have a look at what the evidence is that the pipes have been off. Okay, so there was a few things over this side, and just before we get to that, another reason the vehicle's here is there's been some issues with the vehicle starting and stalling, cutting out and not restarting, or not restarting for 20 seconds, something along those lines. There is an extra fuel filter in place, one of those 2 micron filters, which we already know, and we've pre-provided the information that these 2 micron filters do cause problems with starting and stalling. So if you've got a 2 micron filter or aftermarket fuel filters, you might want to upgrade closer to 5 micron, or you might need to change it once every month or 2 or something, because they do block up fairly quickly. I know a lot of people have got them and haven't had problems. If you've had luck, then that's luck. We just deal on information based on the averages of what we see. Now, what we saw here that led us to believe someone's worked on the vehicle, the first problem was the throttle motor here. It was loose. This was loose and wobbling. You can see there's a bolt missing. So whoever took that out, probably, I'm not going to name anyone, the 40,000 K service was done by another wanting Toyota. So whether they took it out or not, I don't know. But that bolt was missing, this one was loose, and that was wobbling around. We don't have this bolt in stock, so we've tightened that one up and directly to your Toyota dealer to get that bolt replaced. The next thing we noticed was there's a clamp down on number 4 fuel line. I've put it back in place at the moment, but it's hard to show you. It's sort of down behind those lines there. It's directly behind that hose on the left. That was sort of flopping out this side here below the vacuum lines. I've pushed it back around in position, and we're going to put a bolt in there to secure that. So there's 2 things at this side that led me to believe there could be something going on. Then I looked at the nuts, and it's going to be hard to get the focus or the camera down, but we're going to try. See, told you it wasn't going to work. See those nuts there? I thought I could see some marks on that led me to believe, or was it not those ones? They'd been off, but maybe not. See this clamp here? See that? Not connected. It's just flopping there, right? It's not connected the way it's meant to. Also down here, there's another clip, see, just above the oil filter, not clipped onto that vacuum line. So we've got a number of things here that have led us to believe that it's been messed around with. And then I go 87,000 Ks, why am I seeing oil down here? What's this about, you know? Because these, you know, we just looked at one with 350,000 Ks and it's bone dry. These don't leak oil. There's a bit of oil there. What often happens when people do remove the valve cover, they either get dirt and debris underneath the top solenoid seals here. And I have had a client actually, just as a coincidence, that did get his valve clearances done at Nuttawanning Toyota, and afterwards he had oil leaking out from around the valve cover here, and he had to take it back and they replaced those seals. Now, it's not necessarily a problem with the seals unless you've damaged them. It's more dirt and debris, sand. If it gets under the seal, it holds it up a little bit. It only takes a little bit for a sweat of oil. In this case, it doesn't look like any of those top seals are leaking. There's a little bit of oil on the side of the valve cover there, down there. So it could be a matter of what they do at the back. Sometimes they crack the cover, over tighten them, particularly at this bolt here. That one there seems to be the favourite. So I don't know if you can see in the video if there's any crack through the plastic there. It could be further around the back, and it could be just a lack of cleaning where they refitted it. But you can see down the back there, particularly down around here, you know, there's a bit of oil there. It's not a big deal. I wouldn't go and pull the valve cover off to fix that. Again, risk of contamination to the injectors. But if the injectors ever get replaced, that's when the oil leak or weep will be sorted out. Further evidence, looking at the top of these bolts here, have a look. Oh, it's a bit hard to demonstrate, but there is like a socket mark on the washer. Okay, this one, see on the left hand side of the bolt, on the washer there, you can see where there's been a socket on there. See how the clamp's twisted? The top to the bottom's not in alignment. Japan don't do that, okay? Factory don't do that, I don't do that. That's been off before, so further evidence. So my money's on 99% sure these fuel pipes have been off, which is a risk of contamination, as I said before. But the main thing is, because it's not an off-roader, it hasn't been covered in a lot of dirt and dust. Well, that's what it looks like to me. We'll check out the rest of the vehicle. I might change my mind on that, but I'd say it's been kept pretty clean. It's done some trips, a lot of blacktop, maybe some dirt roads. It's certainly not something that gets hammered in the outback. These nozzle seals here that around the pipes, they look reasonably clean, right? It could have been cleaned up at some point. All that white gear, bit of degreaser sitting around in it that didn't get washed out maybe. But because they're reasonably clean, we've demonstrated in other videos how all the mess from the pipes gets to the inlets of the injectors. So check out the other videos, as I keep saying. Let's have a look underneath and see what we can find. All right, having a look underneath. This is going to be pretty boring at 87,000 Ks. You're not even going to see the sweat on the rack boot, I don't think. No, nothing there. Even though the car is 8 years old, no sweat on the rack boot. The usual upper ball joint sweat, like I said, all normal, a little bit on the tie rod end. We just looked at one with 350,000 Ks, looked pretty similar. See the ball joint up there. Now, quick look at the bushes. At 8 years, basically no cracks whatsoever at just under 90,000 Ks. One thing that I did notice was a little bit of oil just on the wiring underneath the starter motor there. We believe is from changing the oil filter. Quick tip there is, doesn't matter if the engine oil's hot or cold, but you've got to switch the engine off hot to avoid that oil filter having issues and not working and all the oil leaking out, right? So quick look around, original brake pads, the fronts, usual sort of stuff, they're about 50% worn, I'd say. Just had a quick look, not going to look too hard. A little bit of a sweat there. I reckon there might have been a transmission oil flush done by someone, because normally that wouldn't have that sweat there, but not a big deal. Just having a quick look down here. Also noticed a bit of surface rust, more than some other vehicles for a Victorian vehicle. That's confirmed, yeah, it gets used a little bit at some boat ramps. If you do go to boat ramps and that, after you get back at the end of the day and you wash the boat, give underneath the back of the car a quick spray with a hose as well, sort of, you know, around all the sort of brakes and stuff like that, around the diff, the rear diff, just around the back here and up, even under the body a little bit, the fuel tank, you know, it's not too bad, but it could get worse. A little bit more rust here. And these shackles here, one of those was loose, so it was about to fall off, so we just tightened it up. Okay, so not much to see underneath. The only other thing we noticed was, and it's not a problem, but these batteries were installed by Piranha in Victoria. Okay, so this is their work, so you can have a look at it. and decide for yourself whether you like it or not and what you would have done in comparison. Did they do all that fuse? Yeah, all that over there. Yeah, both batteries. This looks alright, like the little bracket there, that's not bad. And wires on top of the fuse box, I probably would have gone a bit different there, but the main thing I definitely wouldn't have done is connected this negative earth cable when you've got the body of the car right there. Remember, from the main battery, the whole car is negative, it's earthed, right? So basically there's other bolt holes down along here that you could use for the end of this cable instead of running it across here, zip tying it to the intake system and to the head. A lot of places do that. I'm not saying it doesn't work, I wouldn't do that, personal choice. Just thought I'd show you that before we go. If you haven't already, please subscribe, turn the bell on, and give us a thumbs up. We're out of here. See ya.